morning, everyone. My name is Steve Grizzell. I'm here to introduce our speaker, Jacey Thornton, the Executive Director of Project Rainbow. We're going to have a great presentation, I can tell already. Looking forward to it. We start our meetings with a lighting of the chalice. And so I would like to ask Ruen if he would come up and light our chalice. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It saves my voice. So I've chosen an excerpt from a poem by the late Andrea Gibson for this morning's chalice lighting. Many of you may be familiar with her from the recent Sundance Festival documentary, Come See Me in the Good Light. And I've chosen this excerpt because it speaks a quiet and poignant wonder to the depths of both love as well as to both the depths of love as well as the depths of pain. So this is from her poem, The Moon is a Kite. Maybe there'll always be some days when the sunbeams look like jail bars. Maybe it'll seem we have more scars than lifelines sometimes. But I found it's always worth trying to walk away from the landmines and hope you come back with your skin intact enough to drink the moonshine. I know you think this world is too dark to even dream in color, but I've seen flowers bloom at midnight. I've seen kites fly in gray skies that they were real close to looking like the sunrise. And sometimes it takes the most wounded wings, the most broken things, to remind us how strong the breeze is, how precious the flight.
Our speaker today, Jacey Thornton, is the Executive Director of Project Rainbow, an organization that uses flags to build community and raise funds. Her background starts as being raised LDS in Arkansas. And Suey, anyway, from that inauspicious background, she arrives to us today having gone through a process of advocating for heirloom seeds and trying to encourage healthy eating, the food service industry for 20 years, and now the executive director of Project Rainbow, which she's going to tell us about. Jacey, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the sincere empathy. I appreciate that. Growing up in Arkansas as queer, I like to joke that I was, twice baked potatoes. I was like thrice baked self-hate. And Southern Universal Baptist, I think UBC, and Mormon, all in the South. And that was the trauma I was raised in. So I'm steeped in that trauma. So the beautiful reflection on the chalice was very powerful to me this morning. I just graduated from grad school at Weber State as a therapist. So thank you. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm really good at last-minute slideshows. And so today I'm gonna kind of follow your lead as the audience, whether I should be a little more pithy and funny or a little more serious and grave. I can do either. I hope to be a little more lighthearted with the moment that we're in. And a beautiful HRC gala last night that inspired me, especially with Jakey Ciolo, the executive director at Nua Collective. And whenever there's a gender diverse leader receiving an award in this city or in this state, it is worth applauding and celebrating with our chosen family members. And so I think while we're on this, I'm going to skip this next slide real quick. Hopefully it doesn't. Oh, perfect. So I am the executive director at Project Rainbow. Each of these QR codes are different. So please, if any of these vibe with your heart, please scan or come talk to me later. But I've been at Project Rainbow for 2.5 years. Flourish Therapy, I've been there for a little over 2 years as well. Did all of my grad program practicum at Flourish Therapy, and with all my gender diverse and queer clients, I could not refuse to move somewhere else. And so we'll talk more about that, but also we just formed the Utah Trans Plus Coalition to organize transgender diverse voices and not have organizations speak on our behalf, but for us as diverse voices speak on our own. And that includes never speaking in unison or together, because we all have different experiences when we talk intersectional justice. And so these are the things that they all kind of have overlap. And so I work with clients on that micro individual level, and I also work on public policy change and advocacy for intersections that are often neglected in our community. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But most importantly, as Steve alluded to, I've been through many life transitions. I transitioned away from faith, which was in some ways more difficult to transition away from my gender expression or my gender that was assigned at birth. It was traumatic. It was everything to me. And to serve an LDS mission and then go through that process, it was just ripping my heart open through that process. So I've lost biological family. I've lost an amazing career. I've lost so many things, and I've grieved that loss, and I've found the power on the other end. I've found this absolute sheer joy to be in community with all of these amazing humans that inspire our community, and most importantly, they inspire me, and they keep me they lift me up when I'm hunched over and thinking I can't bear it anymore. And I've never had such an amazing family as what's shown here. And so I'm going to probably get into a lot of personal things today, and I hope that's okay, because First Church has given me so much joy over the years, and it has saved me in so many ways over the years. When I was in a federal halfway house almost 20 years ago, I was able to see a vision that I had while incarcerated to create community gardens. I trained other incarcerated individuals on the beauty and the power of community gardens and how we can come together in space and take the things that are unhealthy about us, maybe the things that have not been very supportive of our growth and development, and compost those things in the garden. And so when I was here, I knew nobody. I got connected with Slow Food Utah. They connected me with Joan and Kathy Alberry. And I don't know these individuals. Oh, you can't see the pictures. If you know who you are. We came and we dropped off hundreds of heirloom seedlings, and Joan and Kathy really were instrumental in helping me connect to so many community partners. And this was in 2010 that I dropped these seedlings off here. And the next year we created Salt Lake Community College's first community garden that remains funded to this day. That is my proudest achievement next to having children. That is my proudest achievement. So it's an honor to come back without a beard, without longer hair. And fast forward to 2019, I came here with my family. And my kids were still the ones encouraging me to use the appropriate restroom, not what the state legislature says, but who we know which bathroom I should be going into. And I remember going to churches that said, hey, for you trans people, go to this bathroom way over here. And I remember the bathroom over here that was at the entrance that had almost a long form narrative of, hey, you're going to see different gender identity, expressions of gender identity in this bathroom. And if you're uncomfortable with that, you go over there to that second floor. And I was like, oh, okay, here's a bathroom I can use. This is great. And it really helped me to try that on in practice. This is going to sound silly, but this is 2025, so nothing silly anymore. Using the bathroom in public. And so First Church has been there for me to support me and my family in transition, including divorce, in so many ways. And including my dear friend, Nikki, who gave us food while I was in a lot of my medical recovery. So I love y'all. Thank you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for the support that you give in so many ways to intersectional identities, because we know that there is no justice without intersectional justice. And the way that you protected undocumented people was so powerful to me. I remember crying the first time I came here to church, where there was an environmental justice table. And I was tired of being ridiculed as a Mormon for being an environmentalist. And seeing a space that viewed that as divine work was so powerful and really helped me connect to the core of who I am. So enough about me. Before we get into Project Rainbow and our mission, I want us to kind of get centered and grounded in the work of our mother, Marsha P. Johnson. If you're not familiar with Marsha P. Johnson, I'm not going to shame you. But shame on you. Because Marsha P. Johnson was a black trans woman who at that time had not an ounce of privilege. And at that time, she was a sex worker. At that time, she was an advocate for the people left on the pier in New York, fighting for them and fighting for survivors of all types of domestic and sexual assault. And she was fed up of the police raids and the weaponization of trans people across this country, because when they showed up to Compton's Cafe, when they showed up all across the country to bust up the speakeasies for our queer community, who did they arrest? The trans people. Who did they let go? The gay white men. And the gay white men often fought for us and stood up and said, this is ridiculous. And so the people who had the gall at that time to come out of the closet knowing they're going to risk their income, their families, and everything else, they still came out and they were brave to come and connect with community. And then to have the police come and jeopardize our community safety was atrocious. And to see in a day that didn't have social media, I know that existed, y'all. We didn't always have social media. We had a newspaper, and people would see, hey, the Compton Cafe riots happened in California long before Stonewall, and people were being empowered and excited to see this movement of people saying, I've had enough. Oh, and the police walked away. Oh, this is great. So at Stonewall, they told the queers to come out, and they were going to arrest them, and Marsha P. Johnson was one of the first people to throw a brick through the windows to re-enter Stonewall. There was a fight that ensued, and it was black trans women, what were considered drag queens and cross-dressers, and gay men all collaborating together and fighting this system. And so if that is the Reader's Digest, I probably had some of the details messed up, but we're going to all forgive me because Jesus, right? Grace, trans Jesus is here with us today. You don't want her to haunt you in your dreams, I promise. So I want us to center. Oh, I can't pause this because I'm not that smart. I want us to center on this and listen to this beautiful music by the fabulous local musician Zaza, who I also count as a dear friend. So you have the piece of paper in front of you. And so this mindfulness practice is less om and more spit and vinegar, more resolve. I want you to write these words or hold this in your heart. Marcia didn't throw the brick to follow your rules. Marcia threw a brick to, and we're going to leave that space blank. We're going to listen to this beautiful music, and you're going to forgive me for the repeated slides in this slide deck that's going to come up because I did this really, really early in the morning. And I want you to finish that statement either after you hear the song, or if nothing comes up for you, you haven't been able to set intentionality. As this presentation goes along, write what your intention is. And that's for you to keep. So write that on the top half of the paper. If you'd like to share that with me, please do. We'd love to share that. But on the back side, I'm going to have you do something at the end of the event so you can rip it off and share that part with me. Okay. So just the last time, Marcia didn't throw a brick to follow the rules. She threw it or threw it to.
March right ahead, we'll make it there soon. They've been breaking my buzz and killing my mood. She didn't throw bricks to follow your rules. When will you be there to follow ours too? March right ahead, we'll make it there soon. Look right ahead and see the new moon. We didn't throw bricks to follow your rules. But will you be there to follow us too? March right ahead, I'll follow up soon. 60 long years we've been done with you too. She didn't throw bricks to follow your rules. But will you be there to follow hers too? March right ahead, we'll make it there soon.
I mean, that's pretty much my presentation. Any questions? That is all. Everything you saw, there were activations from Project Rainbow. And so a great way to kind of launch into who we are. Like we've heard us allude to like what we do, but at the end of the day, our purpose to exist and uplift queer and trans people. And I like to lead more now with trans and queer people across Utah into any neighboring area of this stolen land that we inhabit here in Utah. And so these flags are more than just the symbols of visibility, and we're raising flags of safety and community and support. They're also ways that we generate revenue to support our queer community. And so Lucas, our founder, saw the Boy Scouts putting up the American flags throughout Utah to raise funds for Boy Scouts of America, and thought we can do better. We're going to do queer scouts, and we're going to raise queer flags all over the state. And thanks to his beautiful vision, you can see all these flags all over Utah. I know all of you probably heard, or I hear all the time people saying, I've never seen so many rainbow flags, even outside of our campaigns, because people love the beauty of a rainbow that says that there are no gaps in the rainbow, whether you're questioning queer, trans, gender diverse, you're anything in between. Gender diversity is not one representation of transness. It's every trans and queer, gender diverse person you see. That's another level of gender. So we don't just have 7 genders, we have billions of genders. So that's the rainbow, and that's what it represents. And sadly, there's elements in our community who want to discard our Black and brown community members, that want to discard our AIDS survivors, that want to discard our trans and queer community members, and that's becoming more and more evident, and it's almost always been so in the United States. But we as queers and trans people have always existed. We will never go away, so we're going to continue to uplift belonging, be a symbol of safety and love, and invest in our community. So from our beginnings in 2019, we've reinvested $400,000 back into our community. And this includes all of the big rural pride festivals. We've invested in Nuunua's Fa Fest, which was the first Asian Pacific Islander Pride Festival in its second year this year. Davis County Pride, I've been told from their leadership, wouldn't exist without Project Rainbow. Pride of Southern Utah wouldn't exist without Project Rainbow. We seeded that Pride Festival. We've helped Short Creek Pride. We're in Dene Pride, Navajo Nation Pride. This was our 5th year to go down and distribute flags. And damn it, I forgot to put the beautiful pictures in the parade where we were giving out, we could throw out pride flags to people along the pride route. And so the joy and the expansion of their parade that ended up being twice as long because people who got those flags jumped in their car and enjoyed the parade procession was amazing. And so this is why we do what we do. And so we love the collaboration. The most important thing, I think, if you could walk away from today thinking like, well, who is Project Rainbow? It is that we are Project Rainbow, the community of donors, of volunteers, the 500 some odd volunteers that it takes to run our campaigns every year. The thousands, we're up to 6,000 flags a year. And this year, what's so encouraging, inspiring to me is to see volunteers showing up more than ever before. We run out of flag routes and volunteer shifts for people to cover because so many people have shown up. Our average donation per flag has gone up. Our number of organizations partnering with us has gone up. This is the fight we're here for. And this is the beauty that I feel like often we don't get to see. That as if you're not an executive director at Project Rainbow, you don't see the beautiful messages, and we're trying to improve, that people give to us. That their child just came out as trans, and the beauty of these flags all over town is what's kept their child on this earth. And we get messages like this all the time. And so this is why we will never cease to fight. You can see we've covered half the state. Those are places that I put our flags up. Those organizations on the side are the about 2 dozen organizations that we grant every year. There's a very simple low bar for people to apply for a grant. We fund both businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. We've funded anarchist collectives. We've funded after-school programming called the Rainbow Book Club. And we've given out so many flags at protests and rallies. And so those are just the small things. Those are the things that people know that we do. Today I'm going to take you behind the scenes a little bit to know more of the things that we're doing to fight the good fight. The other hat that I wear, like I said, is florist therapy. If you're not familiar with florist therapy, we offer sliding scale and no-fee services to our queer community. We just received, this is going to shock you all, but this is true. We received an allocation from the state legislature to fund therapy sessions for our clients who have no way to pay. And so Lisa Hansen, our founder, is incredible, and it is such a privilege to work there. If you have loved ones that need therapy, I have a link that you can get you into our intake form and get you on your way. And so this is that collaborative work that we do together, and I have the honor to collaborate in a way as the executive director for Project Rainbow on many of our initiatives. So as a therapist, this is kind of what it looks like right now in most of my client sessions. World's burning, and if you can't see it, that's supposed to be me on the side saying, have you tried positive affirmations? And the client's saying, what the Am I in a church or is this a summer forum? I'm not going to say it. What the hell? There, we'll say what the hell, right? And so we have to do more as therapists than just be in the sessions with our clients. We have to go out and fight social, systemic inequalities that our community faces. And so I'm going to have to skip the slides, sorry. This is my ADD brain. Welcome to my brains. So this is the moment we're in, and if you've missed this somehow, there's banned words. There's words like, there was a political party that said, we shouldn't be in this cancel culture moment. Like, what's so wrong? And now they're canceling everything. They're canceling women. You can't say the word woman in a grant application to the federal government. You can't say, what are some other like innocuous ones? Cultural heritage. You can't say that in a grant application. They'll scrub you. And so I was asked to speak at Weber State because they had 3 people turn down the speech, and they were getting to the bottom of the barrel, and they're like, hey, Jacey, what are you up to? It's Friday night, it's 11 o'clock, you wanna come over? And I had they had an actual screening interview to say, here's a list of banned assertions that you can't assert exist, like systems of oppression, like discrimination. You can't say these things. Do you assert that you will not say these things? And my response is, what happens when I don't? Not if, but when I don't. And I was told, I don't know. I said, okay, yeah, I'll do this. And I gave a speech where we held a moment of silence for the death of free speech. And I talked about the importance when my code of ethics as a social worker butts up against executive orders from a human who wants to erase who I am, who wants to take away every right that's there, who stopped all equal opportunity employment complaints that were about trans people, who told the Department of Justice's CRS, Community Relations Service, no, you can't go and do a training in Utah on hate crimes panel that we were going to host because it's centered on transgender issues. When we look at hate crime statistics, we are our community is the one that is facing the biggest increase of hate crimes against us. And they are taking away any opportunity for us to lean on federal resources to survive. And that's horrendous. And so I'm happy to say that, let me back up. It's important that we stop early complying with the fascism coming from DC. It's important that we fight, that we say no, that we stand up like we're seeing these pockets of people that are resisting, that are standing up. Mayors of cities saying ICE needs to leave. People saying that the war against the innocent people in Gaza needs to cease. That all of these intersectional injustices, we have to fight together. And so the reason I bring this up in this speech was they asked me how much I wanted to get paid for speaking. And I said, how much do you normally pay? They said $1,000. And I said, I want a headline, $10,000. And they're like, well, we'll put it through. We don't know if it'll work or not. And I said, yeah, I hope it doesn't, because then I think the national headline will get me $30,000. And happy to say that in spite of me sharing why I couldn't comply with these requests, that I had to speak up for my queer community on Trans Day of Visibility. Are you kidding me? You're inviting a trans activist to come to campus, and I can't say trans, I can't say activist? No. We're saying both, and we're saying all of it. And I got the $10,000 grant for Project Rainbow. And I bring that up not to boast, not about ego, but because I went back to my other trans community and said, stop asking for 1,000. We need to demand 10 for our organizations, because as public funding or public media is defunded, as AIDS prevention is being defunded, that trickle down of donations should tighten up for organizations like ours, because we need everyone giving money in so many spaces. But please give me your money. And so we are aware of these macro level things that are happening, and how we, as a big part of what we do as a funder, we want to pass money on to our community. And so going back to the Trans Coalition, being in therapy, talking to my board, our scope with Project Rainbow is to be support to everybody in the rainbow. So 2 years ago, when we walked in the Pride Parade here in Salt Lake, we had a Republican elected and a formerly Democrat elected official. No, a formerly elected official that was a Democrat. That is a Democrat. Shireen Gurbani. We all love Shireen. And so the fact that we can hold space for that political spectrum is important to us. And so we thought, we're going to continue to be trans-centered, but we're also going to create a coalition of voices. And we're going to center everyone else's voices and kind of get out of the room a little bit. So today we're having a barbecue so that we can talk offline about how we're going to drive impact, especially for healthcare for our youth. And this was our first event that we did. So last year in November, we thought, hey, we need to create this coalition. And we put together a Trans Day of Visibility cultural celebration for the first time, community celebration, at the Utah Cultural Celebration Center in West Valley. Y'all, they never had a drag show in West Valley's Cultural Celebration Center. I mean, of course, we're in Utah, but like not one drag show, not one Pride event. And we were the ones to have the first event. We actually did the queer thing and beat a city to their punch they had their first West Valley, this was the first city-led Pride festival in the state, in the history of the state. That West Valley, because of the queers that worked there, said, we're going to have a Pride when executive orders are telling us that we can't do this. So let's give it up for West Valley Pride. West Valley City for throwing a Pride, but we beat them to the punch. And in 30 days, we organized an event that was so powerful. We had over 50 around 50 tabling booths, and we had BIPOC trans performers, and we had the Trash Pandas from Unitarian Church come perform. We all love the Trash Pandas. And so a great assortment of people there. We had over 1,000 in attendance in 30 days. And again, this is the beauty of the moment we're in. So who's the Utah Trans Coalition? These are the partners that helped us organize that event. Many of them are represented by trans voice. All of them are represented by trans leaders in our coalition. And we operate from the same frameworks theoretical frameworks we work from at Project Rainbow: anti-oppression and transformative justice. What is transformative justice? If you know of restorative justice, it's that minus state solutions for violence. And so when we talk violence, we're talking harm, we're talking violent communication, that we can come together and heal as a community of both the offender and the offended, and keep people in community. Because the last thing we need are queers fighting queers, trans people fighting trans people. And so we want to find ways that we can come together and build broad-based coalitions. And so if you are interested in participating with us, scan that QR code. If you have needs for your youth, scan that QR code. We'll be in contact with you. And so it's important for Project Rainbow. It's important for me. Going back to the community garden, I couldn't have done any of that without a broad community of people. I could have done that without you, Joan. I couldn't have done it without I'm not going to start thinking of names. My brains are old, y'all. I'm like Adam Dastrup and the Environmental Sustainability Committee at Salt Lake Community College. And so we need to lean into each other. We need to support each other more than ever before. And so this coalition, we're at this point only excluding organizations that have harmed our trans community until they tell us how they're going to fix the harm they've caused, especially for our incarcerated trans community, who I've been told over and over with several bills that have been passed that harm our trans women that are incarcerated. This is good legislation. Or we now support this because they made some modifications to it. But now the 58 trans people that are in the Utah Department of Corrections care, 70% of them received prescriptions after being incarcerated. That has now gone away. And that was not fought. That was a fight that just went by our sides. And so we are finding ways to fight and to be more vocal. And we will be going into the prison in the next couple of weeks, at least the next month or so, to host a mind-body bridging group for our queer community in the prison. So the last resource that I think you absolutely need to have if you have we all have trans community in our lives. You may not know it. These two organizations, we're working relationships with them to navigate resources all over the country to relocate or find medical care in other states. So Campaign for Southern Equality has resource navigators, and we just connected with them last week after a couple of months of trying to connect with them with the craziness of Pride. And we will be holding a town hall soon about how to get our youth and our adults, because you've probably heard Medicaid is being threatened for even us as adults, including me and my family. And so we're not going to let that happen. And we're not going to go without a fight. So elevated access helps transport people with any type of healthcare needs, whether those are reproductive care or gender-affirming care. And so these are resources that we can publicly share. So we all know the political landscape. It's just god-awful right now. Like, I'm just trying to exist. I'm trying to feed my kids, trying to go back to gardening again after grad school. And so we've lost any opportunity. Utah's never had public accommodation support laws to support our homeless and sheltered community members or our victims of domestic violence in this state. And it's become further away, it's a goal further away from us because of recent legislation. And having worked in this space with domestic violence at Journey of Hope, I can tell you our shelters are not safe, especially for our non-binary community members and especially for our trans women. Our incidents of rape and sexual assault are far higher, and especially at the intersection of race. You will likely be sexually assaulted if you go to a shelter as trans. And we're not getting the support we need. And so we're talking sports. We know the passport kerfuffle that's now being stayed, and we go apply for your passport if you haven't. If you're trans, we might be able to get it for a little bit. So there's a lot going on there, but I don't want to leave us in all the negative, in a negative energy, a negative vibe today. But I do want to just show, and they're not all showing up. That's wonderful. We like to focus on the pride flag ban and the bathroom ban. Our community, when I say our community, the queer community needs to step up and provide services for our justice involved and our incarcerated community members. I've had people tell me, why are you spending resources on people that have screwed up? And these are queer people. We were all illegal just a few years ago as queers. Sodomy laws, cross-gender clothing laws. You could be picked up and put in jail. And now we have people who have no idea of the shoulders we stand on as organizers, as community members, of the fight that was fought for decades. It's terrifying right now, but it's been worse. I had the opportunity to go to a Creating Change conference with the National Gay, Lesbian, the National Queer Task Force. I'm screwing it up. But there I remember hearing Black trans elders telling me, you're just learning what it's like to not have privilege. We've always had this. We've always been suspicious of state solutions. And for me to realize that was the second most difficult transition. It's a transition away from power. As a tall white man, I could go into any job and get it. Like, I was very successful as a business manager of a category that was $58 million. I went from making six figures to $9.15 an hour when I transitioned. And I felt that slip of privilege. And so the ounces of privilege that I still have, I'm going to use to support all of my community. And this visibility is important. As a 6'4" trans woman, you know what the most difficult thing is? Finding shoes. And that probably kept me in the closet for an additional year, okay? Because I'm a size 12 in men's shoes. They stopped making cute shoes after size 10, right? And some will do size 11 when they go to like taupe and beige colors. And it's like, where'd the flowers go? So it's important that those of us who have the privilege, there's a thing in our queer trans community called passing privilege. And goddamn you, I'm sorry. This is a summer form, right? Trans men, I love trans men. They're so powerful. I see you, love you. They pass like nothing. They like take a few pills. They look like you can't tell. Now we have men with beards going to the women's restroom because of our laws, right? And people are misunderstanding what's happening. So we have all these difficulties happening. But the most important thing that we need to do is be more visible. So in a time where it's terrifying to be more visible, what do? There's these statistics on the board right now of what happened for marriage equality was when we hit about 60% of people that knew gay and lesbian people and couples, they're like, wait a second, they're as boring as we are. They just want to have a nice garden. They just want to have wine at night and go to bed early. What's the big deal, right? And so right now this is a Pew Research. Sorry, I didn't source it. Pew Research has found that only 44% of people in U.S. say they know someone who is transgender. And it gets worse when you look at people who work with a transgender person. They say 26%, which means people aren't aware. We don't feel safe in workplaces. And we may kind of switch our presentation at work to be more androgynous just so we can pay the bills. Because there are black market jobs that we can do, and many of my family and friends do these things to survive because of the lack of anti-discrimination enforcement in this state. We have laws, But I know many of my friends that have been fired, lost jobs, and we've never won an anti-discrimination lawsuit against an employer. And so we have laws on the books for that, but does nothing for us. So we need to be more visible. We need to be in space. So Project Rainbow, this is a big part of our mission, is to not step down, to do the opposite, to lean in, whether it's groups of thousands of people in this demonstration we were not necessarily a part of, but can we celebrate that we've had so many protests this year? The state history's largest protest, I'm not going to misquote the number, but thousands of people that showed up to the Capitol to resist this fascism. To me, the most impactful protest that I've seen in the last couple of years was at Emerson Elementary, where some parents had some pride flags on the sidewalk and their resource officers were called on them to leave the premise while they're on public property as they were dropping their kids off at the school. So what do? They partnered with Liberty Fresh. They gave me a call, said, hey, we need some flags. I said, no problem, I got you. We came out to Liberty Fresh, and you saw these kids and their parents, 100 of them. This was not my experience in the South. I was told I was the most vile sinner, and I was going to hell, and I was destroying my family's chance at celestial exaltation. These kids had their parents and their neighbors and their classmates with them, saying, this is how you protest. They walked with our flags. We collected the flags at the sidewalk as they walked into school, and we will not stop. We didn't stop with, oh, I missed the slide. Where is it? Murray High School, same thing. We gave them their flags, got out of their way, let them do what they do. This is me across the street, and then fading into the side, and like, this is your moment. This is amazing that you kids have this power. And then went back to school afterwards, which was kind of weird for me from Arkansas because we stayed out of school when we protested. So the broad coalitions look like as well being invited to speak in spaces where I'm an ally. And this picture was caught by a friend. This child in the foreground is mine. This was on Martin Luther King Day. And just a month later, Sydney spoke at her first protest. And I didn't ask her to. She stood up and had powerful words. The kids are watching, the youth, these powerful youth. And I hate it when I denigrate the kids, the youth, by saying kids. I'm just nervous. The same way I'll never say anything other than incarcerated individuals, the state minimizes the power that our youth have when we call them children. So we continue to fight. We raise the flags for Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Awareness Week for the last several years, and where we heal with community care and support. And yes, this just putting a flag in your yard is a powerful sign of community. A flag on a janky pole that is PVC. It's probably got a couple stickers put on it. Sometimes they're coupled with a coupling because they broke in and we're trying to stretch the dollar. But for people to come, and in my neighborhood, and I've heard this from a lot of our volunteers as well, the most powerful thing is when someone comes to your door and says, thank you for putting that flag up because it helped me to come out. And to know that someone in my neighborhood I could trust if violence happened. I've had this happen 3 times at my house. And so I don't know what that slide was. We're running short on time. So for us to hold public events, we have to always lead with the forefront of safety. 2 years ago, we started doing these public event safety trainings alongside the Department of Justice Community Relations Service. We helped increase the safety at Davis County Pride, at Daybreak Pride, and made sure that our event marshals were unarmed, that they were trained, and that they had training before they came and participated. Then we did a quick round of training the day of. And so this is, the picture on the bottom is one of 4 trainings that we've done so far in the community with those. We're working with USARA, All Substance Abuse Recovery Advocates, I think is their current name. They've changed the name. It's always been USARA. Recovery Day will be there again this year, and to be that lighthouse of queer identities in recovery, and how do we become more trans, culturally humble and understand that, like, how do we hold space for our community when we've had to scrub our websites and not say that we do? And so we're finding ways with our friends at Fit to Recover and my good friend Tenace here at the top, who launched Queer and Sober SLC and has received funds from us for the last 2 years. With the mental health side, we're working with Flores Therapy. We've hosted quite a few mental health lectures, not just lectures, practices with internal family systems and mindfulness breathing, and we're going to continue to do that in the time to come. Last year we held this, last 2 years we've led the charge on Trans Awareness Week, so every day it's a day of programming. And so we start with a flag raising. We had an amazing fireside from the incomparable Connell Donovan. And then we went to a day of economic empowerment, which was a job fair. It was a luncheon for justice-involved queer people. We had workshops. We had a T4T art market and tea time for our trans community. Had a trans festival, which was a big smorgasbord, decolonized holiday celebration with our community, where there was a lot of punk music, a lot of hugs and tears and laughter. And then we had Fit to Recover host our LGBTQ group exercise and support group. And so, and it ended, this culmination of events led to a protest and rally where we stood and shouted that we are going to fight for our living, including organizations that aren't often represented at protests, like Suquan with Hope on Tap, who serves our trans sex workers who need the medical care and care kits to survive on the streets. So it was such an honor. This top picture, I'm really upset didn't show up. It showed up in the presentation. 5 minutes, you're going to behead me. No. We're done?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
We don't have any time for
Okay. Okay, so for Q&A, I'm just going to run through this really quick. Economic empowerment is important to us. And last year, we resisted the urge to not have lavender graduation. Kim Hackford-Peer at the University of Utah, professor, her spouse started lavender graduation at the U over 20 years ago. This year would mark the 30th year of lavender graduation. And we said, hell no, we're doing lavender graduation. We sponsored it and supported it here. And we did it on campus at Weber State because we said, you're not telling me that when I graduate from Weber State that I can't have a lavender graduation on campus. You're not going to relegate me to the margins. We're going to fight. And we had 30 people in our graduation there. And this year, we are going to do a lavender graduation in this county. And way to go, Trevor Lee. Guess what? We're going to expand it to high school seniors. And we're going to have over 1,000 people there because we need support. As a first-generation college student, I could tell you the difficulties of being queer are unlike any other difficulty, because I was poor, I was queer, I was food insecure when I graduated, both from my undergrad and currently in my grad program. And so we need community. And so if you are interested in being part of this steering committee, I need help, because Kim said, I can't do it this year. I need Project Rainbow to do it. I'm like, oh, great. I'm kind of in my no era where I'm telling everybody no. And I said, okay, we're going to do it because this is important. And so we're going to do it countywide, all campuses, whether you're Stevens Henniger or the defunct Trump University, whatever. You can come and graduate and celebrate your graduation. We'll have your school's name on it, your degree, your pronouns, your name, and you're going to announce it yourself. And there'll be people in their regalia. You can invite family to this event, meet new family, because it'll be that invitation you can give back to school to say, I'm graduating this year. Come to my celebration on April 16th at the Utah Cultural Celebration Center for their third queer event of their life. So that is a big ask that I have for you, is to get engaged there. And then finally, you gotta be kidding me. That's not the best PowerPoint. So this wasn't the best. This was like really mid on the PowerPoint level. But I have a list of things that we'd like to do this year. Are we locking the doors now? Okay, so everyone that's here, you're now part of our committee. Congrats. So what I'd like for you to do is take that piece of paper that you have, and this actually helps us with the Q&A, because this will basically be our Q&A. On the back, on the other half of that you can rip away from the first part, or if you want to leave it on to share, please do that as well. You saw the calendar, I'll pull it up real quick, of the events that we did this past year. We're looking at doing on the Tuesday, which is the 18th of November, SLC Pride is leading a day of civic engagement. And they're going to talk about how you can become more engaged and part of our political system. And that also includes hyper-localism. So not just going to the state capitol, but fighting for things at our city, county levels. And so we're going to have a day of sexual health with Planned Parenthood. We've got a pretty solid commitment from them. So we'll also have a day of legal support. So whatever skills that you have or people that you know that should be engaged with this, you're going to call them out. And I'm going to not name names, but I'm going to say, hey, someone told me that you might be interested in this. Or you yourself would like to be engaged. So instead of scanning a QR code, write your name and phone number so I can contact you and see how you would like to be engaged with this event. A week long of fighting for the living, because on the 20th of November every year, we celebrate or we memorialize the lives lost to violence on Trans Day of Remembrance. So for a week, we're not going to just talk about how people like to kill us. We're going to talk about the obstacles we have and the things we're doing to support our community and coming up with new solutions. And so please take that time to write that, but I'll open it up for 1 minute, 2 minutes.
No, next.
Thank you. Congratulations on being a licensed therapist for the state of Utah. So important.
Thank you.
Your slide depicting two individuals in a therapy session,
Yes.
okay, motivates me to ask you this question because you made a very quick passing reference to State Representative Trevor Lee. Mm-hmm. I wonder if if you can envision a time where you might sit down with him and try to get into his mindset, why it is that he's sponsored legislation to ban trans flags, queer flags, but Nazi and KKK flags and banners strictly legal under the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. And I'm at a point now where I refuse to disagree better, and I refuse to engage in conversations where I don't have someone on the other side that in good faith is coming to find middle ground. And until the point that he apologizes for his supremacist remarks and his continual harm to our community. And I can't have that conversation. We'll leave that to the people who can disagree better. But I think coming from an LDS background, and many of my friends are still LDS, I have quite a few conservative friends. I can have these conversations. But if you're going to minimize my humanity, I don't have time for you. I'm busy building right now. So we want to find ways to increase that visibility for people to see that there's trailblazers all over our state that are PhDs in archaeology that are trans. There are people that are fighting in ways that are underground that not everyone knows about. And when you start to see and rub shoulders with people, that's the most powerful conversation you can have with some of these people. I want to say some of these people, some individuals that struggle with seeing the humanity of our beautiful gender diverse community. Thank you.
Tristan, do we have any comments from online, or questions, I should say?
Well, let's see. There was an early comment from one of our Zoom viewers that said, I grew up in Northwest Mississippi until I was 10 years old, grew up Mormon, and have been living as a trans man since 2012 in my late 20s. Your story is so relatable. Thank you so much for being here. And
I love you, friend. I can relate. Oh my goodness.
And the question here from Sheldon, what can everyday people do to help?
That's I don't have the time to respond to that question. I think the simplest thing for those of you who've never engaged in political activism or direct actions, wear a trans lapel pin. Wear rainbow colors. Put a rainbow wreath of flowers on your door. Those small steps are so big right now. And so for our educators to wear that pride t-shirt, right? Because that's protected First Amendment speech. Do what you can to resist. If that means self-care, and making sure that you are healthy and seeing a therapist, do that. If it's giving a hug to someone, a consensual hug to someone who is a neighbor or a friend, do that. Give them a meal. Coffee. Come have coffee with me. I'd love to have coffee with you.
Thank you. Yeah, this was really great.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've noticed just talking to people is really understanding the humanity that you talk about. One of the ways I know that people do that is through media, through movies and books. I recently saw A Real Woman, and that was an amazing movie. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it was A Real Woman. It's in Spanish.
I haven't seen it yet, I don't think.
Anyway, do you have any movies or books that you recommend to really help people understand the humanity side?
Nico Lang's American Teenager. Nico is an incredible journalist, has written for a lot of large magazines and news outlets. And they just came through Salt Lake and did a book signing tour. And Nico is an incredible gender diverse human as well. And it highlights the stories of trans people across the country that are Muslim, that are Christian, that have different faith backgrounds, and they embedded with them and lived with these individuals and really got to know their family and see the struggle and see how there's the complexity of human experience. Our teenagers struggle, it's teenage years, right? And like the trans thing is just one more thing. It's not like trans, your teenage years are ruined because you came out as trans, but it makes it more complicated. And so I think that's a really powerful one locally. I would just say go to Under the Umbrella bookstore to find books and ask Caitlin over there and their team of like, what books would you recommend? Because I've got a bookshelf full of books, but that's the most recent one that I've fallen in love with.
Paul.
It took me 78 years, and I'm going to come out of the closet right now. I know, and I'm not going to explain it. I don't have to. I am a lesbian in a male container. I'm going to leave it at that. Why is that important to me? Because it makes me even more aware and empowered to want to fight for my rights as a lesbian and as a person. The brick. I never heard of Marsha, but why did she throw the brick through the window? I think because she was a brick. She got hardened over the years because at that time, they didn't have any other option. And so she had to crash through to get on the other side of that wall as a brick. Maybe the best example of a brick that I can think of. We don't have to be a violent brick. Rosa Parks was a brick. She entered the walls of that bus, and that's who I want to be. Henry Thoreau said to Ralph Waldo Emerson when he said to Thoreau in jail, "Why are you here?" And Thoreau said to Emerson, "Why are you not in here with me?" I hope I have the fucking courage when I leave here to be a consistent brick.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate your coming out. And I think it's so important that we validate everyone's gender and sexual expression because all of our identities are uniquely ours. So thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, how do you do? What do you say to folks like me and I guess Gavin Newsom now, who are otherwise fully supportive of the trans agenda and trans rights, who see certain issues like women's sports giving an actual advantage to trans rather than equality that puts you over the edge, and we can't support that issue. How do you address that?
I think right now, with us being at only 44% of Americans that know a trans person, and that we need to get to 60% of Americans that see our humanity. And that does include my 11-year-old child that's non-binary that can't play sports. And so there is no physical advantage to youth, and there's some complications and there's some gray areas we can have a more detailed discussion about. But at the end of the day, excluding queer people from public spaces began with sports bans then went to bathroom bills. Because there was a bathroom bill in North Carolina that was passed 10 years ago. Do you remember the protest? NBA said we're not hosting the championship game here anymore. There was a fallout like never before. And now they're able to do it. And it's because that gentle pressure that they're giving of saying like, hey, let's consider this little part. Let's just consider this morsel that there's only, the NCAA commissioner said of the hundreds of thousands of athletes that are in the NCAA, I think they said 3. There was less than a dozen trans athletes, and none of them were medaled. And so, except a couple. So to think of this exaggeration of what's happening and not getting back to the basics of we are human. We existed before the colonizers came to Turtle Island. We existed and were set on fire, and dogs murdered us when they saw variations of sexuality that fell outside of Christian norms and gender norms. And so there is a discussion for nuanced views, but I think until we get to a place, elected officials should not be using that pulpit against us, because the next thing to go is healthcare for trans adults. And in Texas, at a time, and here in Utah, they were going to criminalize me using the restroom. And in Texas, parents are being investigated because they had a trans child because of those bills. So it's a very complex question. I don't know, I didn't answer the question maybe the way you'd prefer it, but I'd love to chat with you more afterwards.
I'd like to, about the bathroom thing. I am trans and I use my preferred bathroom, and if anybody says anything, oh well, because I know I'm not doing anything in there I shouldn't be doing.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
Would you join me in thanking our speaker?
Thank you. Thank you so much.